Google's AI answers are here, and they are taking over SERPs. Now, to be completely frank, it's almost kind of like a newer version of the knowledge graph. And history has shown us that if you can get content to show up in the knowledge graph, aka that first no-click search, you're going to get much more traffic than if you were to show up in the traditional blue listings beneath. Now, Google's been very vague in terms of how much additional click-through rates or how much additional traffic you can get from there. But their spokespeople have also said that if you show up in AI answers, you're going to see a pretty big increase in clicks to your website. So in this video, we're going to talk about the process that we've used to get pretty much all of our clients to show up in the knowledge graph extremely quickly, even in some of the most competitive verticals like car accidents and personal injury law. Let's get into it. So before we get into that exact step-by-step how-to process, let's talk about some keys to success here, because you can waste a lot of time and resources optimizing content that ultimately means nothing to your website or to your clients. Before we get into the step-by-step how-to, I need to cover one very big, quick caveat. You can waste a lot of time and resources optimizing content that ultimately means nothing. Ranking in the knowledge graph for the wrong terms isn't going to do too much for your business or for your client's business. So the content that you want to optimize, I like to say, should be mid-funnel, because you're not going to get bottom funnel content like landing pages or practice area pages or location pages to show up there. It has to be a little bit more informational, but you have to be very, very thoughtful about the type of content that you want to do this with, because otherwise you're just going to drive a lot of traffic for traffic's sake. So the examples that we have here, these are from a couple of our clients. This one here is the average car settlement amount in Connecticut. And you can see this is one of our clients here showing up, bang, taking up that entire knowledge graph right there. Now, why does this keyword search matter? Because if somebody is searching for this, the average car settlement amount, we can likely deduce that they have been impacted by a car accident and they're beginning that process of looking for an attorney, right? It denotes that they're in market, and if we can get them to the website, then we might be able to impact their journey along. Now, here's another one from another personal injury attorney in Georgia. The query is what to do after a car accident in Georgia. You can see that there's two ads on top of this too. That just tells us that there is a certain level of intent behind this query as well in terms of the value of it. And you can see here now some of this listicle is pulling through. And again, what to do after a car accident in Georgia. What does that tell us? That tells us that that person or somebody that they know or care about was impacted by a car accident, and they're looking for some guidance and help on what to do, which will ultimately lead them down a path of hopefully calling our attorney client. Now, I've got my partner Cesar Cobo here with me. He is the one who is responsible for all this great work. I'm just the show pony up here that talks about it online. So Cesar, let's talk about the process that our agency goes through to optimize this content. So let's start with the average car settlement amount. Now, is there something that specific that we're looking for when we do keyword research? Is there a process that we follow? Like when we came up with this topic, right? Like talk to me about this process here to understand how we want to front load the content, optimize the content to get it to show up in these knowledge graphs.
The premise that we start with is asking ourselves, what is most important to somebody that's been injured in an accident when they go to Google and they're doing research about their specific case? Is what is my case worth? What is it worth to me? Is it worth my time to get an attorney? Should I get an attorney? Those types of things. So we start with that as the premise as to the keyword research that we do. So something, for example, doesn't get more explicit than that. What is the average car accident settlement? It's, basically somebody that's involved in an accident wants to know, on average, what can I expect? Or if they've already spoken to an attorney or they're talking to several attorneys, they might be getting numbers, so they want to verify the information that they're getting. It starts with keyword research, and it starts by putting ourselves in the position of the injured party. What is it that they're going to go to Google to research?
So like, for example, when you did the keyword research, I would imagine that this term actually came up, right? There was volume behind this term, right? Yeah. So this inherently is also obviously an informational query, but it's also a question, right? So I can see here that when we wrote this content, it just leads off by saying the exact answer to the question. Yeah. Right? Is that a key part of the optimization of the content to get it to show up?
Yeah, so let's talk about the optimization. The very first thing is with the page title. The page title is the most important on-page element when it comes to optimization. So we don't get cute with the title. Another thing you notice here, you don't see any self-promotion. You don't see the attorney's name or anything. You only get a certain amount of space in there, so you don't want to jam it with a bunch of irrelevant terms or with your brand that no one's going to care about. So the title is exactly the keyword that we're going after. and then we always localize it to the state. It doesn't make sense to localize these things to a specific city since laws are state-based. That's another trick that we add to the page title, is to always localize everything that we do. Secondly, as you pointed out, is getting right to the answer. This tends to work very well when it comes to the knowledge graph or the AI answers now. Don't bury the response in the middle or the bottom of the page. Get right to it. A lot of the featured snippets that we've captured is for that very reason, is that we get right to the answer right in the opening paragraph.
In the rest of the article, I'm assuming just kind of goes to fill out the rest of supporting neck, brain, bones, just basically supporting all those additional kind of sub keywords, right? But again, you can actually see here how Google is just highlighting the people here. That's not me, that's actually Google because I clicked through on this query. So that's one. Let's look at this one now, because this one is different. This one is what to do after a car accident in Georgia, right? And actually, personally, I love this query because again, the other one is good, right? What's the average car amount settlement? We can probably deduce that that person is in market, maybe not directly searching. They're just somewhere in that kind of ecosystem of looking for an attorney after accident. But this one is very specific. This one is, I got in a car accident. My husband, my wife, my child got in a car accident in Georgia. What do I do? And this one, as you can see too, pulled through a bit of like a listicle format here. So when we click on this one here, talk to me about this one, because we don't see the green, the purple highlight here. This one's actually spread out. So this one is not a matter of summarizing the article, right, or the exact query here, because this one is a little bit longer. So talk to me about this format, right? This one is what to do. How do we know how to optimize this one to get it to show up for that one as well?
Okay, so with this one, what you want to do is whenever you have a list like this, is you want to mark up in the HTML. There's a way that you can mark up so that Google understands that what it's getting here is a list, a checklist, a 1, 2, 3 step process. The other thing is we didn't get lazy with these things. You can see that there's a lot of content underneath each step. It's providing a lot of context for the action item and really going into detail, which is a contrast from what we see from a lot of attorney websites. Their content, whether it's them creating it or someone creating it for them, is they get really lazy. Like they'll just have the list, 1 or 2 sentences, and that's it. So with this type of content, we really go heavy in the research and understanding, again, putting ourselves in the position of the person searching it. What exactly is the intent behind the search? And then we use content, the meat and potatoes content, to answer those questions.
Yeah, I think the intent here is really important. I mean, something that I think that we do very well when it comes to our strategy and doing with our clients is understanding the specific intent behind queries. Because when we talk about brutally competitive spaces, like personal injury and accident, I've been doing this for 15 years. I don't know if there's anything more competitive on the internet than this, because there's so much money pumped into it. There's so many agencies that are handling this for lawyers. So we're actually not competing against other lawyers. We're actually competing against other agencies in these SERP queries. But traffic for the sake of traffic is something that to me is no longer acceptable, because Google doesn't have the same amount of real estate it used to. There's very finite amounts of space that you could have now, because there's ads, there's all sorts of different search products, there's maps, there's AI coming in now too. So there's less real estate to compete against, right? So that means there's less traffic, there's less bite at the apples to go around. If you're creating content just for the sake of creating content, which is kind of like an old SEO adage, like, oh, we need to fill the website with supporting content. I'm like, no, you don't. You really don't. Like, what you need to have is the right content that supports the right journey that's ultimately going to lead to people wanting to call that lawyer, and understanding the intent behind these queries is important. So again, when we talk about injury and accident, we only want to create content that's post-accident for the most part. I mean, once you create all that universe, maybe you can go pre-accident a little bit, but like, what's the point? If you haven't been in a car accident, why do we want to put content on the website about that, right? And I think a lot of agencies or even law firms or any business really gets stuck in that pattern where they're just continuously creating content. And it actually ends up having an adverse effect, because it kind of like bogs down the website, right? It ruins the user experience. It's just no longer relevant. And you get to that situation where that agency's showing you that traffic graph going up to the right, but you're like, yo, my phone calls aren't scaling with that. What's going on? It's because of the intent. And these are the things, the attention to detail, that really make the difference between success in terms of not just traffic and rankings, but also phone calls, leads, and new clients to a business. It's understanding the intent. And going even deeper than that, you see the difference between these two queries. One is a direct question. We understood the intent behind that question, which is let's give the answer right away.
Yeah.
We understand if somebody's searching for that, they probably just want the answer, and the rest of that page is just kind of supporting information really for Google to help rank that page. Versus this one, we understand it's more of a checklist. Like, it's not just a quick answer what to do, one question, like, hey, call the police or call an attorney, right? There's probably a specific set of rules that if you asked an attorney, they would probably tell you as well. So intent for all this stuff is so important. A lot of times we just have to take a step back and detach ourselves from the keyword research tools and the data and ask ourselves, if I was this business or if I was giving this advice, how would this properly be formatted? And we see a lot of that impacted in Google. So if you guys need help with content optimization or getting content that actually drives leads, not just traffic, hit the link below to schedule a call with our team. This is what we do. We do it in our sleep. We have plenty of examples of doing this. We only work with law firms, and we're very good at getting this stuff done for you. So hit the link below, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.